Hey guys, for our reading unit today, you guys have been doing fabulous work in your biographies. Okay, so very proud of you. Make sure you're doing your reading log. When you're reading and researching your biographies and you're getting that information out, make sure that you're counting that towards your reading because that can go in your reading log too. I've talked to several of you. You've loved the biographies. You love what it teaches you. So make sure that you're keeping up with that. Log it in the reading log. Okay, good job. So while you're reading, okay, because many of you have finished up one biography, you've put that information in the Google Doc on the assignment. So keep that up. So if you haven't, try to finish that up. If you have, continue doing what you've been doing. Go to that log. That's where you put your notes that you find. If it's easier sometimes for like me, I like to manually write it down, keep my notes, and then maybe organize it a little bit better and put it in that Google Doc. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. If you're good, like some people I know, they'll just read a chapter or so and then make notes, read and make notes, read and make notes. And that's fine. If you want to do that, that's fine too. However you want to do it, it's up to you. So think about what you're reading about, your biographies, right? And sometimes when you start this, you already think you know all there is to know about famous people like Michael Jordan or George Washington. But to truly know these people, really know them, you have to read their biography, right? Because that was written about them, but it was written by somebody else, okay? So make sure that you understand that to find out who this person really was or is, some of them are still alive. A biography doesn't necessarily have to be about somebody who's dead or has been dead for a long time. Biographies can be written about somebody today. This will tell you who that person was or is and who they became after they became famous and maybe even why they became famous and or more importantly what made that person great or stand out. All right, so as you read it, remember we talked about this earlier, as you read it, those biographies, make sure you say who is this person and then what are they like. Okay, and then also as you're reading, you know who the biography is about, but kind of keep asking yourself the question like, who is the main character, right? You know who it is, but more importantly, what kind of place do they live in? What kind of character or setting do they live in, this character, whoever it is? If it's about a George Washington or somebody, their world, their time that they lived in is so much different than what you or I are in today. So keep that in mind as you're reading your book, your biography, okay? The setting. If it was about George Washington or Ben Franklin or Abraham Lincoln or even a Rosa Parks or Jane Goodall. Some of you are reading those books. Our world today, 2020, is so much different than it was even 50, 100 years ago. Okay, so keep that in mind. And also, when you're reading these books, you get to see a little bit deeper about that person, a little bit more than they were a hero or a famous person. They were just like you and me at some point. They weren't, more than likely, unless they were like a king or a queen or something like that, they were a normal person, much like you and I are. So keep that in mind too. And that sometimes can help you understand where they came from, how they got to be famous, and maybe even why. All right. So again, we talked about the setting of the story. Make sure you look at the details of of where they live. Maybe it's a different state. Maybe it's a different continent. Maybe it's in another country. So that's the information that you can gather as you're reading your biographies. Okay, so make sure that you understand that, and also remember, just like we did in fiction, look at what they do in their actions, maybe from day to day, week to week, and how that person portrays their information, right? What does that information that you just learned, what does it tell me about him or her as a person? If you're looking at like somebody famous because they were president, their actions, how they interacted with people, those are things that you're going to be looking out for. And to understand your character's life a little better, you also note who this person was influenced by, who played a really important role in their life. If you're some of you, I'd seen you're doing like a Michael Jordan or maybe another sports person. Often they're teammates or coaches or teachers if they were going to school. That helped influence that character and maybe what role. So those are all things that you're doing, okay? And you guys have been doing fabulous work, okay? So make sure that you remember that these biographies, they don't just tell the stories of famous people. They also give us information about that world and time that they lived in and the culture. And that will help you understand that character, maybe why they act the way they do. Okay. So remember, you're finishing up one biography. If you've already done that, move on to number 2 and repeat that process, taking the notes, the setting, how this person lived, where they lived, what possibly made them famous, how were they when they were young, growing up, where they grew up, and then as they got older, and maybe why they were considered famous. Okay. So you guys are doing fabulous work. Keep that up. And again, if you have questions on anything, always feel free to ask me. Okay. You guys are doing fabulous work. Keep it up. I miss you guys.